There we go. There he is. Coach, what's going on?
What's up, guys? How are y'all?
We're doing outstanding. No comments on Keegan's mustache. He's very sensitive about it.
Keegan, you look good, dude. You look good. Don't let
Thanks,
him.
Coach. I appreciate it.
He says there's a beard somewhere there too.
Can you grow facial hair more than a mustache, Keegan, or what?
I had one all season. You didn't see it?
I was not preoccupied with your facial hair, man. I promise. All the fans that are paying attention out there, I'm focused on other things.
You were focused on other things? Okay.
First off, Kelsey's watching from middle school right now. She wanted me to tell you hi.
Tell her I said hello.
I will. She's watching, so hi, kid. Go back to school. Learn something. You got 2 weeks of school left. Come on. Let's get right to it, Coach. We were talking to John Cunningham a little bit ago, about an hour ago, and one of the things that came up was retaining your own roster and the challenge that has become in the NIL era. Maybe even at, depending on where you're at with your roster and the building process, maybe even more important than the additions that you make in the portal. As a coach, take us through those couple weeks following the end of the season until the portal closes and you're out on the road and you're going to meet with families and you're working on retention. What is that like from a coach's standpoint? Something that's never really been part of the process before.
Well, first off, I think the goal of this whole thing, guys, like the goal of recruiting hasn't changed, even though the landscape around us has changed in every way. And the goal is to put the team together that gives you the best chance to go out and represent Cincinnati and compete for championships. Like that was the goal before I was born. It was the goal when I was playing. It was the goal when I got into coaching. It's still the goal now. And I think we live in this era where, like what's online day to day gets a lot of attention and who wins every recruiting cycle and all that kind of stuff. And there's some relevance. Obviously, if you have a good recruiting cycle, that should help you down the line. But the goal is to have the best possible team. If you have a really good team that's growing and is bought in to all the things that go into what we value in a Cincinnati basketball player, then it's really important to retain that. If you didn't think your team was very good, it's probably really important to go get a whole new team in the transfer portal. That's going to change at different programs for different coaches and for different reasons. I think here this year we really liked our team. We felt really good about not just the players individually, but who they were becoming collectively as the year went on. We felt like there was a lot of room for growth individually and as a group. And so the biggest priority for us when the season ended was to retain the nucleus of this team. And I thought we did that. And I'm excited about that. And then obviously you want to try to win every recruiting cycle for you. We're not trying to win the rankings nationally. I could care less about that. And I thought, to date, we've added a couple guys that I think really add to this team and what our needs are in a really positive way. So it's not just about the guys that are ranked the highest. It's about the guys that fit the best. And I think the guys we've added really fit.
You added Conor Hickman out of Bradley. Has that relationship with Drew Adams, just an interesting player from a guard perspective. When you look at his game, he told me that his strengths offset Jizzle James and Day-Day Thomas's weaknesses. Is that kind of how you see it, of just them playing together and how they complement each other?
Yeah, I thought the way that the three of those guys complement each other was really important to us, and they all do. They don't all have the exact same, or they're not all opposite strengths and weaknesses. But what I'd say is that we think a ton of Day-Day and Jizzle. And if you watched our team this year close enough and you don't, I think you don't know what you're looking at. I mean, I think we have two guys that improved the entire year as both rookies in college basketball in the Big 12. And that I think because of their character and the way they approach it their ceiling that they're going to continue to improve. But we wanted to add depth, and we wanted to add somebody that'd been through it. It's like some real experience in the backcourt. And with that, we wanted to add shooting and a guy that could play both on and off the ball. Like I thought that was important, that somebody that was really comfortable going back and forth. And Conor's done that his whole career to date. And then obviously the level that he shoots it. And then, like it's not all numbers, Keegan. Like when you're evaluating, you're not just looking at, he shot 42%. I mean, you look at the way that Conor, shot a great percentage, and it's even more impressive because he was probably the best guard in that league, arguably. And everybody's trying to keep him off the 3-point line like we did when we played Bradley in the NIT. And so the difficulty of the shots that he was shooting because of how he was being defended, to me, makes it more impressive where, you hope when you put him on our roster, he gets easier shots because he's not the number one guy on the scouting report.
You got to circle back around to a guy like Aron Paige after having been involved in his initial recruitment process before he ended up deciding to go to USC. How important was it that you had already had that established relationship with him throughout that first go round, and then to get the opportunity to bring him back in the fold?
Well, I think it was everything, right? I've said this a ton. I said this to AP and his family. I mean, if we didn't know AP and we hadn't recruited him for a year and change, and
Right.
like honestly longer than that, we'd been evaluating him for 2 years of high school, some of his sophomore year, into his junior year, and then we really prioritized him there in his junior year through his decision process. So from just a pure basketball standpoint, we saw where he was when he didn't even have Division I offers, and then what he became in a really short period of time. So we've seen his development. We know his coaches. I've not just watched AP on Synergy in the recruiting portal. I've watched AP at 5 a.m. workouts before school with one of his high school coaches. I've watched him in AAU. I've watched him in camps. I've watched him win a state championship with his high school team. And then I was able to obviously go and watch all his minutes as a college player at USC. So it's almost the recruiting. If you just looked at him as a transfer that hit the portal, I don't know if we would have recruited him, right? Because you look at the numbers and limited opportunity, and there's some DNPs, and I don't know if I go, there's that kid that was a highly rated kid out of high school from Atlanta. It didn't go well. We're going to prioritize him. But when you add the whole body of it, like I realized there's a lot of factors into what went on. I saw where he was, and I know where he can go. We really believed in him, recruiting him. And then, you get on the phone and you learn a little bit. Like, people don't know this. AP had mono at USC this year. I mean, I had mono my senior year in high school, guys. And but it ruined my senior year. I didn't miss games, but I had it going into my senior year. I ruined my senior year.
Sure.
All my recruiting plummeted, and I ended up doing a post-grad year of high school probably because of that. So, I mean, mono can take you out and can have a long effect. AP lost 15, 20 pounds. I mean, there's more to just these are the numbers. And I think, I think people out there should realize we're in here, till the wee hour, early in the morning, wee hours of the night, trying to figure out the right guys to add. And we get far past just what the surface level stuff is. And with AP, if it wasn't for that long recruitment, I don't think we even would have prioritized him in recruiting. But because of that long recruitment, he was top priority when he went in. It was exciting.
Still one spot open. How difficult is that with the portal closed? Does it change the equation at all?
Not necessarily. No, I don't think filling that spot has anything to do with the portal open or closed. We're just looking for the right guy that's the right fit relative to the rest of our team.
Kind of going back to Arrington, you talked about the relationship, being at all the early morning workouts, getting to know his family, but from just a pure skill set vantage point for fans that, didn't get to see him a lot at UC, What does he bring to this lineup, and how much are you looking forward to him developing in year one with you guys and then continuing to grow down the road?
Yes, I've told him, I'm like, I just can't wait to get him here and get to work because, the guy that everybody saw at USC this year is just a fraction of who he is as a player. And uh, like his ceiling is crazy high, guys. Like as high as any front court player in America. I mean, it's exciting, and he's super young. I mean, he's young for his age, for his class, right? Like he could have easily been in the next class. So there's so much room to grow. He loves basketball, like loves it. He loves to work. He wants to be pushed. That was a big part of the recruitment this time around, that he wanted somewhere where, somebody was going to push him and help him, like reach his goals. So I'm really excited. I mean, he's versatile, right? Like AP's not a center. He's a forward. He can shoot threes. He can move his feet and defend multiple positions. He can block shots. He can rebound. He can run. I mean, he can do things off the bounce. Like I love the stuff they did with him at Wheeler his senior year, where they kind of ran some 5-out stuff with him, and he's handling the ball and getting to dribble handoffs and ball screens. And then he's got the ability to use his strength and athleticism around the basket, and you could see that a lot. Through his high school career, he scored over both shoulders, and he's got all the stuff. I think now it's about putting it together at this level. And again, you watch that happen over the course of his sophomore through senior year pretty rapidly of high school. And I believe because of his character, it's going to happen here. And I do think we're a really good fit culturally for him as well.
You've got the Tylers coming in, Tyler Betsy, Tyler McKinley. It is, as we saw, very difficult in this league for freshmen. How do you judge? How do you work through this summer trying to get those guys up to speed and getting them in a position where they can help you this coming season?
Yeah, well, I think first off, there's very few freshmen that can impact the Big 12 in terms of winning right away. But there were some. There were some, very few, but there were some. I think both Tyler Betsy and Tyler McKinley are both capable of that. And I'll give you two reasons. One, I mean, they're super gifted. They're going to be great college players, and both have the opportunity to play beyond college. But you have to have, in my opinion, you have to have something as a freshman at this level that sets you apart and gives you a chance. And both of them have that, right? I mean, Tyler Betsy's ability to shoot the basketball, and I've cautious that I don't want to label him as a shooter, because guys, y'all are going to watch Tyler Betsy.
Yeah.
Y'all are going to watch him run up and down a couple times, and you're going to be blown away because you can see it with his length and the way he moves. And he's got a great feel. I went to watch him back in late January with Coach Dollar in a prep school game up in Rhode Island. And all of a sudden he's getting into the lane and making great kick out passes and seeing the floor. I mean, he's coming at this crazy fast rate, and he's already a great player. So I don't want to label him as a shooter, but his ability to shoot it at an elite level at 6'8", 6'9", like that gives him a chance to impact the game and impact our team day one. And I think you have to have something that separates you at this level, and he has that. And then Tyler McKinley's feel is off the charts. Like, he's such a great passer, and I think he's the kind of guy that when our guys play with him in pickup or play with him in summer practices, they're going to instantly gravitate to him because he makes everybody around him better. He just knows how to play, gets to action really well. He is one of the best passing big men I've ever recruited. It's certainly at this stage. So I think both have qualities that are going to allow them to transcend the freshman trends you see at this level. But we got to get them up to speed, as you mentioned, Chad. Like, we have to get them there defensively and physically. So both of them will be here next week and start training with Mike Rayfeld, which with both of them, it was like, as soon as we can get you here, we got to get you here, because the physical nature is so important transitioning from high school. And then, obviously in our summer practices, getting up to speed with how we do things, where they're supposed to be on the floor. So I think Jizzle would tell you this, right? Or Rayvon. The hardest part isn't the level. I mean, it's a challenge because now everybody's older and things are faster and everybody's at a higher level. But these guys are so gifted. That's not the hardest transition. The hardest transition is dealing with that change in level and age and speed, and then also trying to learn all these new concepts. So like they're out there trying to learn new ways to do it, our terminology, the places we want them to be on the floor. We're not going to let them get away with things that they were allowed to get away with it in high school because, obviously, like that's going to affect our team. And so they're trying to learn all that, and they're trying to compete at a higher level. And that's why transitioning for freshmen is tough. We got to get them up to speed on what we do and how we do it so they can play without having to think. You can see young players sometimes be paralyzed by thinking, and we want to try to minimize that. There'll be a little bit of that early, but I think both of them have a chance to be impactful right away.
How does the summer workout change, the plan change? This is the first year at Cincinnati you have turned over less than half of your roster. That has been the thing in college basketball, like with a great deal of turnover. You're inboarding so many people that I imagine it impacts at least the beginning of the summer as you're trying to get people adjusted. Are you in a place now where it's like, look, we have this large group of guys that know the deal? It's kind of their responsibility to pull the new guys in and pull them along. And can you maybe be a little bit more advanced in the summer than you've been so far?
Absolutely. Right. I mean, like how you do, what you do, why you do it, you're trying to set a tone for that right away, right? That you're trying to like create some identity, and that should be less of a learning curve because we return so many guys that now are building upon that. And then those new guys can kind of learn. They can learn from within the locker room, which is a really powerful thing and becoming more rare. Like I said, continuity's incredibly important, but not at all costs, right? You got to have the right continuity. Sure. We didn't just get guys back. We got guys that were the right guys back and guys we wanted back. And so if you can do that, I think you're doing something, and, certainly we're proud of that.
Did you have a bigger exhale when the transfer portal window closed, or when you found out that they're going to allow everybody to transfer every year and you aren't going to have to worry about if anybody's going to have to sit out or not next season?
Yeah, I was. This is interesting. Number one, there was not really an exhale when the portal closed because, like, we have really, really good relationships with our guys, and we have good guys, and so if they've all were very direct and honest in their commitment to coming back. So, and that was well before the portal closed. So, I slept pretty well. It wasn't like I was worried about anything. If something would have happened, it would have shocked me because that's not the carry. If there was an issue with our guys, we'd have known it because they would have told us. Like, we have really good, honest dudes. Our fans should know out there, like, we got the right kind of guys representing Cincinnati basketball. You guys will be even more proud if you got to interact with them as young people every day and watch how they not just go about their training, but how they carry themselves and the type of young men they are. And they're growing up in our program, which is what coaching's all about. So no, I there's some coaches out there that were counting the minutes till midnight. Some of my colleagues, but they'd say things like that to me on the phone, and I'd say, I'm, certainly, like, I don't want anything to happen, but I'd be shocked if it did because I think we have really good dudes. And then in terms of, it's like interesting. I think a lot of people, because I was working so hard last year to try to get, and I had very strong language publicly about getting Aziz and Jamil eligible. I think people think that I'm was beating the drum for just, free agency every spring. And I'm not. I mean, I would tell you this would be a lot better for our game if there was some kind of penalty, in place. I'd be the first to tell you that. I'm not trying to restrict kids and any of that, but I think to have consequences for decisions, I think is healthy for all of us. And people argue all the time, Aaron, like, well, coaches can leave whenever they want. Well, that's not necessarily true because we have contracts, right? And
Right.
Those contracts have things like buyouts, and there's factors to our decisions. I would certainly like it if moving forward we found a way to have. I never wanted free agency every spring. I don't think any coach would, and I don't think fans do. I think fans, want to see the same kids year after year. And this whole crazy thing that's going on over the last 4 or 5 years with our game, I do think we'll figure out how to get back to that at some point. But so no, I was not relieved when they said transferred. In fact, I went, here we go. This was going to be wild and crazy again. And so, but my thing with Jamil and Aziz last year wasn't they should be able to do whatever they want and transfer every year. It was you guys set out a set of guidelines for kids to transfer. I read those guidelines as a coach and made decisions based on those guidelines for the benefit of our program. Kids made decisions based on those guidelines for their life. And now you're going to come back and say, no, we're not going to follow those guidelines to prove a point. To me, that's what had me so up in arms, not that kids should just be allowed to transfer as many times as they want every year. And sometimes coaches will say stuff to me on the road, like, you're the guy that got all this done. And number one, I'm not expecting, I'm not taking that responsibility because nor is that what I was pushing for, or am I responsible for 40 years of the NCAA not doing anything, and finding ourselves in this big mess.
Sure.
Scheduling. I know it's a hot topic every offseason. What is your overall approach now? 20 league games. You've got the crosstown shootout. You'll mix in a couple high major games, maybe a neutral site game, whatever that case may be. But where do you think is the sweet spot in terms of making yourself relevant resume wise? And is there how much thought process goes into the bye games, like the quality of the bye games, and trying to make sure you're playing teams that are in the top of their league or teams that potentially are going to be tournament teams? Do you look at this team historically has a net in this range? Like, how much of that is a factor in building the schedule?
I mean, do you guys think that? Do y'all value the net? It doesn't make any sense to me. I
just know that they tell me I'm supposed to value the net.
They tell all of us, but then they make decisions on Selection Sunday that look like they don't value the net. And then they say the net's not everything, but quad 1 and quad 2 games are everything. Yet what metric determines whether a game is quad 1 or quad 2? So
shots fired.
No, I think any coach would say this, like it's contradiction at its finest. But I like consistency with the NCAA, like anything they do, there's consistent contradiction, right? Like, but no, so like the net does matter, yet it needs to be cleaned up. And like anything, they introduced this recently. I hope they'll make efforts to clean it up, because you can't say that it doesn't matter on Selection Sunday when the way that you group quad games, which really matters, is determined by where people fall in that. It's just that to me is mind-boggling. But no, how much do we? This is what we're looking at, Chad. And get to you struck a chord with me there. But
I know
how do we to think about our non-conference scheduling? The first thing is we're looking for the proper amount of balance. We want to make sure that we're challenging ourselves enough to prepare ourselves for the Big 12. I think when you play in the Big 12, it was very different than when I first got here and we were in the American. It's actually been interesting. I haven't had a lot of control over our non-conference schedule, since I got here, because a lot of it was in place for a couple of years when I took the job, and then we were transitioning into a new league. So it's like it's been hard to get to a stable place to just have a scheduling philosophy in non-conference. So it's changing a lot year to year. But when I first got here and we're in the American, you're looking at the NCAA tournament and you're going, we better prepare to play really tough games on neutral floors in non-conference, so that the American Conference doesn't keep us from being in the NCAA tournament. Because this wasn't about any specific program, just historically, okay, Houston and Memphis and and things like that. Maybe another team or two year to year are going to be those quad 1, quad 2 games, but the rest of the league may not. So you better have enough of those games in your non-con. Transition into the Big 12 last year, like every game you play, 18 of them are going to be quad 1, quad 2 games, every single game, and plus conference tournament. So you still want to play some of those games in non-conference, but you don't want to schedule yourself to a point that you beat your team up or you're too tired to finish the year. And I think, guys, if you look at the Big 12 in the last month of league play as a league, and I looked at our it was the best league times 100 in college basketball last year. It was unbelievable. It wasn't that this team's better than every other team. It was that every team in the league was really good and really, really good and really well coached with really old, good players. And it's every single night with no relief. I mean, I've been a part of some great leagues before and followed college basketball my whole life. I mean, every night, and there's no relief. There's no game you go, oh, we don't have to play as well tonight. I mean, and that's how the whole league felt. And I think you look at the NCAA tournament and how we did in the tournament as a league, even the NIT. I mean, people are exhausted by the end of the year. So I think as you go back to non-conference scheduling, you don't want to be in a position where you're exhausted through league play. But you also want to challenge yourself. So I think that, long-winded answer. You like this, Chad. You don't have to ask many questions. I'll just talk for the next 20 minutes. But like, I might even do this to you when you start asking. You've done a couple times here. Yes. Like, I'm like, damn, you ask a question and then you go offline. Like, you're not going to pay attention.
Well, the problem is I've got 2 dogs that are fighting with each other in the other room. And I don't want to, disturb you with dogs barking while you're talking.
So with our players, when they respond to things like that, we make it very clear that response is an excuse. And we're not about excuses. But no, I'm just kidding. But to get back, you're looking for the balance, guys. And 20 league games next year in the Big 12. I think the league gets better. Like with the addition of the four corner schools. Yeah, that program's been pretty good. And Tommy is done a great job. But like the league gets better. You're playing 20 games. There's no bye week for anybody in the league next year, which is just wild. Like, I think it's 20 games after Christmas and 20 slots. So there's like no relief. So as you look at the non-conference schedule and what we have in place, I don't want to like say anything out of line, but I don't know exactly what's been released, but you certainly have the Crosstown shootout. You have a return to Georgia Tech. Neutral game with Dayton again. And I need, listen, we didn't do our part that night. And that is always going to start with that. If we were playing with nobody in the stands, we got to do our part. But man, we're in downtown Cincinnati. We got to have more Bearcats there than Dayton fans. Well, I mean, I need some help there. Like we need some help. And that game's important for the NCAA tournament later in the year. It's really important that we play the game neutrally for a lot of reasons. Like we need our fans. We need our fans to the ones that were there. We were appreciative because you were loud. And again, we didn't do our damn part, but we need our fans to get way behind that one. So we're not playing in a semi-road game in downtown Cincinnati. And so that we'll do that again. And then obviously looking at some other things, but you start to look at 20 league games plus some games that are already in place. Like our schedule is going to be challenging again. And then, you're going to want to fill in some games here in Fifth Third for a variety of different styles of play, teams that challenge you and that type of thing. It's some of the stuff you were mentioning earlier.
One last user submitted question before we let you go. Who was the most improved player through the season last year? This is going to be so diplomatic. Here we go. That's why I was excited to ask this one.
You just wanted to preface it before I answered the question.
Oh, I knew where you were going.
Who do you think was the most improved player? That's called like flipping it around, like flipping it back at you.
I'll go with CMOS, mainly in part because we didn't get to see a lot of what he looked like at the beginning of the season because Keegan's mustache tried to run over him with the car.
Keegan, if that was you, buddy, we wouldn't be on this Zoom.
It wasn't Keegan. It was just the mustache.
Yeah.
Well, then you need to shave that thing off. But the truth is, I think if you just looked at production in games, that's an easy answer, right? It'd be CMOS. Yeah. I don't know if that means he really improved that much. I think two things happened. He kind of found his niche within our team and within our program and league play. And then he got healthy, and then he got confident. I mean, he was playing with a ton. I think his confidence improved throughout the year. But had he been healthy in the fall, I'm not so sure he would, because he was playing like that last summer when he got here. But the thing I'm proud of is a lot of guys improved over the course of the year. Like, guys got better as the year. I thought, like, Davion Thomas, his decision making got better. Like, so much better. You think about early in the year, he's challenging guys like 7-footers at the rim over and over, right? And I love that. That's why we recruited him. He's fearless, and he can go dunk on a 7-footer, but he's going down the lane. He can get there when he wants to, and then he would just think he'd go dunk over everybody. And it's like, at this level, that's significantly harder to do consistently. And in fact, the better play is if you don't have a great shot to keep your dribble alive or find the open guy. And I thought, like, that was an area of development you could watch him evolve over the course of the season. Like, and I thought really helped our team. I thought Jizzle's improvement was, like, incredible. I mean, we all knew it was in there, but not just improving his skill set, which he did. He improved as a shooter, but just learning how to function at a high level and run the point guard position in a college basketball game. I thought he improved in a way. I thought Daniel took a major step as the year went on. Like, I thought early on in the year, you could see that he was a year older and was making plays, but he still, in some ways, and he would hate me saying this, but he still played like a freshman in some ways. And I thought as the year went on, he got more and more consistent, reliable. His focus got better. And I could kind of keep going down the line, right? But I thought a lot of guys not just improved on the stat sheet, they improved in other ways as well.
All right. Well, we got to let you go, unfortunately. I'd keep you all day, but I know you're busy. You got a lot going on, and we appreciate the time that you were able to give us.
Can I say this next time? You called me last night because you are very diligent and you are on top of everything, somewhat annoyingly so at times, right? In fairness,
yeah,
you live it.
I know. I understand that,
which I respect. I respect how much you live and breathe it, because I'm the same way. But everybody out there listening should know how hard you work at it, that you're waking me up at 11:30 at night.
It was 11. It was like 11.
I was in bed, and the game either just ended, because I was like fighting to stay up to watch the end of the Minnesota game, the Minnesota Denver game, which was an awesome game, by the way. But you called me at some point, and I was like out of it, and you were just making sure I had the time right. So you work your tail off. But if you remember, what I asked you was I thought we were doing this somewhere. Like, I thought we were actually.
I was like, well, Keegan's upstairs.
I thought we were going to be at Holy Grail. Like, I was really looking forward to that. Actually, I thought we were actually all going to be there together, and I was going to drive downtown to the Banks, and like, I thought we were going to. That next time we do this, let's do it from somewhere like that.
I mean, the Holy Grail is a sponsor of ours and very good friends, so we can do that.
Matter of fact, the owner is going to be on later today.
Yeah, Jimmy will be on with us later. I know you play golf with Jimmy. Jimmy's a friend of yours.
Guys, I'm a lot more than a basketball coach. See, I've already connected all these dots. Like, we should have been doing this live from the Holy Grail all day long. And
the problem at 10 hours at the Holy Grail, I don't like that. Would have been.
It's all about what you want. I probably stayed a lot longer because I'd have had a couple beers by now, and that might have made me want to stay for another hour. So that's my suggestion next time. Holy Grail.
All right. Well, there's that 6'4", 240-pound linebacker that's on the other side of Keegan waiting to get on. So
he's more important than me. So.
I like where your head's at, though, Coach.
I'll call you at 10:45 tonight. You should still be up then.
Keegan, I love the mustache in terms of your confidence. I tell you, you could go without it, big picture. But I love
I'm
you.
growing the beard out. You won't see it anymore.
It
All
should
right.
be ready by July.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, boys. Later.
Thanks, Coach. See
Thanks,
ya.
Coach.
Okay.
There you go.